A Supreme Court that has put itself above the Constitution, has put itself above democracy itself, and is driving an extremist agenda.
Do you have confidence in the Supreme Court?
No, I think they've gone rogue. It's most unfortunate.
In order to rebalance the court, we have to unstack the court, and that means expanding it. Otherwise, a whole generation of Americans is going to have to be saddled with this reactionary and partisan court.
I guess I should say welcome to Armageddon, but welcome back to Sunday Night in America. I'll try to break this down as simply as I can. If Democrats like a court decision, things are okay. If they don't like a court decision, then the world is ending. Perhaps Senator Warren forgets this court actually, the one that she calls extreme, actually preserved her beloved Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Perhaps Nancy Pelosi forgets it was a Republican-appointed judge who wrote the opinion preserving her beloved Obamacare. And judges are not political hacks like Adam Schiff. They actually sometimes have the modesty, the humility to, in essence, rule against what they would prefer to see happen. Schiff, you will recall, spent years chasing a ghost called collusion, made up a fact pattern during a congressional hearing, and wound up getting kicked off the Intelligence Committee. He's a lot more partisan than any member of the High Court. Joining us is Senate Judiciary Committee ranking member from the great state of South Carolina, Senator Lindsey Graham. Senator, I like to use the word humility. Our judge friends call it following their oath. But judges routinely exercise restraint that is not always seen in politics. I mean, they have a completely separate role from lawmakers, right?
Yeah, thank God they do, because you don't want to have 9 unelected people making laws for all of us with no accountability at the ballot box. So let's break this down. The overturning of Roe. For over 50 years, the Supreme Court ruled that no elected official in this country could have a say about the life of the unborn, the rights of the unborn, until Roe was repealed. There's nothing in the Constitution, Trey, that says you have a right to an abortion. This was a judicially created fiat called the right of privacy that was made up from whole cloth. There's no specific mention of abortion in the Constitution, but liberal judges created a right to abortion that doesn't exist. Conservative justices turned this issue back over to the people. The Roberts Court, with some exception, has been the most constitutionally sound conservative court in my lifetime. Thank you, President Trump, for giving us constitutionally sound conservative judges on your watch. And the Democrats, my friend, will stack this court if they get the House, the Senate, and the White House. They will obliterate the conservative majority we worked for 50 years to create. So remember that when you vote.
All right, President Obama, you will remember this better than I do, but he voted against nearly all Republican-nominated judges. So no one was to his liking. Biden wasn't much better. So, I mean, to quote my senior senator, if you want to start appointing judges, then figure out how to win elections. I mean, it's really hard for me to believe that Scalia and Ginsburg were almost unanimously approved given where we are now.
Yeah, that's a good point. 96 votes, I think, for Scalia, 97 votes for Ginsburg, opposite ends of the poll in terms of how you look at being a judge, but both qualified. So it started with Ted Kennedy trying to destroy Bork, the Clarence Thomas, what they tried to do to Kavanaugh. So liberals try to destroy conservatives. They could care less about the rule of law unless the rule of law is working for them. When the rule of law is used to advance their liberal agenda is great, like you said before. But if they see a constitutional conservative judge about to go into court, they will destroy this person if they can get away with it. They tried it with Thomas. They tried it with Kavanaugh. It didn't work. I'm proud of the role I've played of helping to make sure conservative judges get on the court. When it comes to Trump and Trump judges, there are no rules. But here's what we have. We got the Chevron case overturned. That's a really big deal. Courts no longer are bound by administrative rulings that make no sense. They can revisit these rulings anew. The Chevron doctrine was putting a blanket over the economy, giving power to unelected bureaucrats, and that has been changed. The Roberts Court, with the conservative judges, are beginning to put the court back into the lane it was created for.
You mentioned Bork and you mentioned I guess it was Kavanaugh. I would also throw into that Miguel Estrada, whom they
Totally
kept
ruined his
off
life.
the court. Let me ask you about Kavanaugh. He had a brutal confirmation process. Justice Coney Barrett was challenged on everything personal and professional. Is there some chance, I know you nor I are psychologists, but is there any chance that some of their votes are designed to prove their critics wrong? In other words, the left does such a good job of vilifying these men and women that they try to maybe overprove that they're not what they were accused of being. Or am I just playing amateur psychologist?
Well, I think their work product answers that question. I think Kavanaugh and Barrett have been constitutionally sound. They all voted to overturn the Chevron doctrine. They voted to give elected officials a say about the right of the unborn. I think they've been very good constitutional conservatives. They've made decisions I don't agree with on occasion, but I think they've lived up to the billing of being thoughtful, scholarly, constitutional conservatives. They'll take a path that I won't take sometimes, but I like that in a judge. These judges are smart, they're thoughtful, and the only sin they've ever committed is they do not consider themselves politicians in a robe. The court has been a tool of the left most of our adult lives. They're squealing like stuck pigs, the left, because the court no longer is part of their political apparatus. It's welcome news. President Trump, thank you for standing behind Kavanaugh, not pulling the plug on him. Thank you. Thank you, President Trump, for giving us these judges, and more are coming if you win.
Yep, and you may very well be the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee if there are future confirmation hearings. Lindsey Graham from the great state of South Carolina, thank you for joining us on a Sunday night.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.